Let me ask you something honest. At the end of every month, do you actually know where your money went? Not a rough idea, not a general feeling. Do you actually know? Because most people don't. And that's not an accident. Here's a number that stopped me in my tracks when I first saw it. 53% of people say they just don't know where their money goes each month. More than half, over half of all adults are looking at an empty bank account every month with zero idea how it happened. And here's the part that really stings. Most of those same people want to invest. They want to build wealth. They want to retire without panic. They just can't figure out how to do both at the same time. Budget properly and grow their money. So they do one of two things. They either budget obsessively, tracking every penny, cutting out every pleasure, and never actually start investing because they feel like they don't have enough left over. Or they start investing, throwing money at stocks or index funds while their day-to-day finances are a complete mess, so one bad month wipes out everything they built. Both paths lead to the same place: frustration, stagnation, and the quiet feeling that everyone else has figured something out that you haven't. Well, today, that stops. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do both, budget and invest, at the same time, in a way that actually works, without feeling deprived, without needing a finance degree, and without waiting until you have more money. Because here's the truth that most people never hear. You don't need more money. You need a better system for the money you already have. And by the end of this video, you'll have that system. Here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to talk about why most people fail at budgeting and investing at the same time, and it's not what you think. Then we're going to build your money foundation, the non-negotiables before you touch a single investment. After that, we'll go through the exact framework for splitting your income so that your bills get paid, your future gets funded, and you still have money to actually enjoy life. Then I'll walk you through how to start investing even while you're still building your budget, because waiting is the most expensive mistake you can make. And finally, we'll talk about the one habit that separates people who build real wealth from people who just talk about it. Let's get into it. Why most people fail at doing both. Here's what nobody tells you about budgeting and investing. They're not two separate problems. They're the same problem viewed from different angles. Budgeting is about controlling where your money goes today. Investing is about controlling where your life goes tomorrow. And the reason most people fail at both is because they treat them like a sequence, like you finish one before you start the other. I'll get my budget sorted first, then I'll invest. Sound familiar? I thought the same thing, and it cost me years. Here's why that thinking is a trap. Think of your financial life like a two-engine plane. The budget is engine 1. It keeps you from crashing. Investing is engine 2. It gets you to altitude you actually want to be at. If you only run one engine, you can either stay airborne or go somewhere. You need both engines running at the same time to actually arrive. And here's the other problem with the "I'll do it later" approach. Every year you delay investing isn't just a year you didn't gain, it's a year you actively lost. That sounds dramatic, but the numbers back it up completely. Imagine two people. Let's call them Sarah and Michael. Sarah starts investing just $200 a month at age 25. She does it for 10 years, then stops completely and never adds another penny. Michael waits until he's 35 to start. He puts in $300 a month, more than Sarah, for 30 years straight. At age 65, who has more? You probably guess Michael, right? He invested for 3 times as long and put in 50% more every month. But Sarah wins, by a lot. Sarah, who stopped investing decades earlier, ends up with more money than Michael, despite contributing far less in total. The reason is simple, and it's the same reason compound growth makes wealthy people wealthy. Those first 10 years matter more than the next 30, and that's the cost of waiting. So the question isn't, should I budget first or invest first? The question is, how do I build a system where I do both, starting right now, no matter what my income looks like? That's what this video answers. But before we get to the system, there's something you have to understand first, because if you skip this part, the rest won't work. Your money foundation, the 3 numbers you must know. Before you budget, before you invest, before you do anything else with your money, you need to know 3 numbers, just 3, and most people don't know any of them. Number 1, your true monthly income after tax. Not your salary, not what your contract says, what actually lands in your account every single month. If you're paid weekly or bi-weekly, add up 4 weeks. If you have side income, include it. If it varies, take a conservative average from the last 3 months. Write that number down. Number 2, your actual monthly spending. Not what you think you spend, what your bank statement says you spend. Go back 60 days and add it all up. Every subscription, every grocery run, every coffee, every "I forgot about that" charge. This number shocks most people because humans are naturally optimistic about their own spending. We remember the weeks we were disciplined and forget the weeks we weren't. Here's a stat that illustrates this perfectly. Consumers underestimate how much they spend on subscriptions alone by an average of $133 per month. That's over $1,500 a year, quietly draining out on apps and services they barely use. Go find yours. I'll wait. Write that number down too. Number 3, your surplus or your deficit. Subtract your spending from your income. That number, positive or negative, is the most honest financial statement you'll ever see. If it's positive, that's your building material. That's the money available to work with. If it's negative, you're slowly sinking, and no investment strategy in the world will save you if the foundation is leaking. Now, here's what most people do with this information. Nothing. They look at the numbers, feel some combination of guilt and overwhelm, and close the spreadsheet. Don't do that, because knowing your 3 numbers, even if they're ugly, puts you ahead of the majority, because you can't fix what you can't see. And now that you can see it, we can actually build something. This is a 4-bucket income splitting framework that I use myself. It allows you to budget and invest naturally, and it doesn't make you hate yourself if you screw up. The problem with traditional budgeting and saving and investing is that people often conflate saving and investing as being the same thing, when in fact, they're opposites. Saving is putting money aside for a known future event. Investing is putting money in harm's way for an unknown future return. They are different things. To balance this, I suggest breaking your income down into 4 buckets. Bucket number 1, essentials. This is your rent, mortgage, utilities, fuel, phone bills, food, your don't die money. Bucket 2, stability money. This is your rainy day fund. It sits in a high-interest savings account. Its job is to provide peace of mind so you never have to sell your investments in a panic. Bucket 3, growth money. This is your long-term wealth, ETFs, stocks, index funds. This is where you put your money in harm's way for that potential return decades down the track. Bucket 4, life money. This is the stuff that makes life worth living. It's the dinners out, the travel, the hobbies, the nice clothes. This is money that you spend guilt-free. A target ratio might look like this: 50% for essentials, 10% for stability, 20% for growth, and 20% for life money. But obviously, life is messier than that. Maybe your essentials are 80% because of where you live. That's fine. The point isn't to be perfect. The point is to have a framework that works for you. How to split your income. All right, this is the section most people come to a video like this for. And I'm going to give you something concrete you can use starting this week. Brick. There are a lot of budgeting frameworks out there. 50, 30, 20. Zero-based budgeting. The envelope method. They all have their merits. But I want to give you something that specifically works for someone who is budgeting and investing at the same time. Because the traditional 50, 30, 20 rule, while useful as a starting point, has one major flaw. It treats saving and investing the same. And they're not the same. Not even close. So here's the framework I want you to work with. And I'll explain each part. Think of your income as being split into 4 buckets. Bucket 1, your essentials. The things you literally cannot function without: rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, transport to work, basic insurance. This is your baseline survival spending, and the target here is to keep this at 50% of your take-home pay or less. Now I know what you're thinking. My rent alone is more than 50%, and for a lot of people, especially in cities, that's true. We'll come back to how to handle that, but 50% is the target, and it's worth knowing if you're over it and by how much. Bucket 2, your stability fund. This is your emergency fund, the money that sits in a high-yield savings account doing nothing glamorous, just waiting for the moment everything goes wrong at once. Because things will go wrong. Your car will need repair, your job might get rocky, your roof will choose the worst possible time to develop a leak. And if you don't have a buffer, one bad month turns into a year of debt. The target here is to keep this bucket growing until you have 5 months of your essential expenses saved. Not 2, not 3, 5. Because life doesn't usually throw one problem at you. It tends to stack them. Allocate 15% of your income to this bucket until it's full. Then redirect that 15% into investments, which I'll talk about in a moment. Bucket 3, your growth. This is your investing money. And this should get 20% of your income, ideally, once your stability fund is in place. If you're still building the stability fund, start with 10% here and 10% going into bucket 2 simultaneously. Don't wait. Bucket 4, your life money. This is 10% for the things that make all the discipline worthwhile. Dinners out, a weekend away, a hobby, a gift for someone you love. This bucket isn't optional. This bucket is what keeps the whole system sustainable, because a budget with zero joy in it is just punishment with a spreadsheet. And punishment doesn't last. So the framework is 50 essentials, 15 stability, 20 growth, 10 life. Let me say that again because it matters. 50, 15, 20, 10. Now, does this mean every pound or dollar has to hit exactly those percentages? No. Life is messy. But these are your targets, your compass. And when you drift, and you will drift sometimes, this framework shows you exactly which direction to steer back toward. Let me talk about bucket 1 for a moment, because this is where most people's budgets completely collapse. Not from overspending on luxuries, but from overspending on things they've convinced themselves are essentials. Here's a question worth sitting with. If you had to cut your essential spending by $200 a month, could you? Most people immediately say no. Then they think about it for a week and find 3 or 4 things they could absolutely cut. Things they'd labeled as essential but were actually just habitual. The gym membership they haven't used since January. The streaming services they cycle between but pay for simultaneously. The premium phone plan when a basic one does the same job. These feel like essentials because you've been paying for them so long they've become invisible. I had a friend, let me call him David, who was convinced he was a budget-conscious person. He tracked his spending, he cooked at home, he drove a sensible car. But when we actually sat down and went through his statements, he was spending over £200 a month on subscription services he'd forgotten he'd signed up for. That's over $2,400 a year. Gone. Not on experiences, not on investments. Just quietly disappearing every month while he wondered why he couldn't get ahead. Do the audit. Every subscription, every recurring charge. Ask 3 questions for each one. Do I use this? Do I value this? Would I choose to pay for this today if I was signing up fresh? If the answer to any of those is no, cancel it. Today, not next month. And then there are the 2 big ones, the categories that make or break most budgets regardless of income level: housing and transport. On housing, most people feel like they have zero control, but you might have more than you think. If you rent, your lease renewal is a negotiation. Most landlords would rather give a loyal tenant a small reduction than go through the cost and hassle of finding someone new. Try it. The worst they can say is no. And transport. This is a wealth killer that barely anyone talks about. The average car payment in the United States is now over $700 a month, plus insurance, plus maintenance, plus fuel. Many people are spending 15 to 20% of their entire income just to own a vehicle. And in most cases, they stretched for a car they could barely afford because of how it looks, not because of what they actually need. The question isn't, can I afford the payment? The question is, what is this decision actually costing me over 5 years? Because that car payment, redirected into investments for 5 years, could be the difference between retiring comfortably and working until you physically can't. Get clear on your essentials. Get ruthless about what actually belongs in that category. That clarity is worth more than any investment tip. Your stability fund, the step everyone skips. I want to tell you a quick story. When I was younger and starting to figure out money, I had a plan. I was going to invest. I agreed enough to know that time in the market beats timing the market. I was excited. I was ready. Then my boiler broke. It needed replacing. 3 months later, my car needed work. The month after that, I had an unexpected tax bill. I had no buffer. Every single time something went wrong, I had to either dip into my investments, selling at bad times and losing money, or put the expense on a credit card and pay 18% interest on it. I was trying to build wealth in a leaking boat. The Stability Fund is not exciting. It does not make you money, it does not have good returns, and it is absolutely non-negotiable. Because here's what happens without it. One unexpected expense, and you're either going into debt or liquidating your investments. Both of those set you back further than the emergency itself. So how do you build it quickly? 3 tactics that I've used and recommend. The first is the paycheck sweep. The moment your income arrives, not at the end of the month, not when you've paid everything else, but the moment it lands, you move 15% straight into a separate account. You don't see it. You don't spend it. It's gone before temptation has a chance. The second is the replacement promise. If you ever have to use your Stability Fund, you commit to replacing it before anything else the next month, even if that means cutting something temporarily. The fund gets replenished the way a fire extinguisher gets refilled, immediately, before the next emergency. The third is the roundup method. Apps that round your purchases to the nearest whole amount and save the difference. You spend £3.60 on a coffee, they round it to 4 and save 40 pence. Small amounts, barely noticeable. But over 12 months, it adds up to hundreds of pounds or dollars you didn't even feel leave. Keep your Stability Fund in a high-yield savings account, not in your current account, not in investments. In a dedicated account that earns something, currently you can find rates between 3 and 5%, but that you can access within 24 hours if you need to. That fund is your freedom. Without it, you are always one disaster away from financial setback. Build it first. Invest alongside it. Never touch it for anything that doesn't qualify as a genuine emergency. Starting to invest. When and how to begin. Okay, here's the section I know you came for. How do you actually start investing while you're still managing a monthly budget? And the answer is simpler than the financial industry wants you to believe. You start now. Not when you have more money. Not when the market feels less scary. Not when the timing feels right. Because the timing never feels right. And waiting is the most expensive financial decision most people ever make. Let me give you the numbers on this one more time because they're worth repeating. A person who starts investing $200 a month at 25 and stops at 35 versus a person who invests $300 a month from 35 to 65. The person who started earlier wins by nearly $600,000 despite investing $12,000 less in total. Time is the variable nobody tells you is the most important one. So here is the practical how. Step 1. Use tax-advantaged accounts first. If you're in the UK, that means a stocks and shares ISA, up to £20,000 a year, completely sheltered from tax on the growth. In the US, it means your Roth IRA, $7,000 a year, growing entirely tax-free, and when you withdraw in retirement, you pay zero. If your employer offers a pension match or a 401k match, that comes first. That match is free money. Turning it down is like refusing part of your salary. Step 2. Keep it simple. You do not need to pick stocks. You do not need to read earnings reports. You do not need to watch financial news channels that are essentially entertainment dressed up as advice. Most people should start with a single, low-cost index fund that tracks the entire market, the S&P 500 in the US, global index fund anywhere else. Something that, when you buy it, gives you a tiny slice of hundreds or thousands of companies at once. Here's what that means in practice. If you bought an S&P 500 index fund in any 20-year period in the last century, you never lost money, not once. And 79% of the time, you made more than 8% per year. You don't need to be clever, you need to be consistent. Step 3. Automate. This is the secret that wealthy people use that most people never talk about. They don't decide every month whether to invest. They set it up once and it happens automatically on payday. The reason this matters isn't laziness, it's psychology. When the money never sits in your account, you don't feel it leave. You don't miss it. You don't borrow it for something else. It just grows quietly in the background while you get on with your life. Set up an automatic transfer on the day your income arrives, before you pay anything else, even if it's $50 or £30. The amount matters less right now than the habit. Step 4. Increase the amount as your income grows. Every time you get a raise, put half of it towards your investments before you adjust your lifestyle. Every time you pay off a debt, redirect what you are paying toward your investing bucket. Your investment amount should grow over time even if your lifestyle stays relatively similar. The people who build real wealth aren't necessarily the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who consistently put more in over time without letting their spending expand to match every income increase. The lifestyle creep trap, I need to talk about this because it is the silent destroyer of more financial plans than anything else. Lifestyle creep. You get a raise, so you upgrade the car. You get a bonus, so you upgrade the apartment. You get a promotion, so suddenly dinner out twice a week becomes the new normal instead of the occasional treat. None of those individual upgrades feel irresponsible in the moment. You earned more, so you spend more. Seems fair, right? But here's what's actually happening. Every upgrade raises your baseline, raises the floor of what your life costs to run. And the higher that floor, the harder it is to maintain your 20% investment contribution as life gets more expensive. There's a line from a book called The Millionaire Next Door that has stayed with me for years. It says, great offense and poor defense translate into the underaccumulation of wealth. What that means in plain language is this. You can earn a tremendous income. You can have a great job. And if you spend it all, or most of it, you're still not building wealth. You're just funding a more expensive lifestyle. The wealthiest people I've spoken to or read about share one counterintuitive trait. Their lifestyle doesn't rocket upward every time their income does. They're driving sensible cars while their bank accounts quietly build into something extraordinary. The goal isn't to never upgrade your life. The goal is to upgrade deliberately, to choose consciously rather than letting lifestyle inflation sneak up on you by default. Here's a practical rule. When your income increases, save half the raise before you spend any of it. If you go from earning $4,000 a month to $4,500, $350 of that extra $500 goes to investments or savings immediately. You get to enjoy $150 more per month in lifestyle, but the majority is captured before it evaporates. That one rule, applied consistently over a career, is the difference between retiring comfortably and working until you can't. The monthly check-in. How to stay on track. Building the system is step 1. Maintaining it is step 2. And this is where most people fall off. They set up the budget. They automate the investments. They feel good for a month. And then something happens. An unexpected expense, a difficult month, a life event. And the whole thing falls apart, and they don't know how to get back on track. So let me give you the exact monthly check-in I recommend. It takes about 20 minutes, once a month. That's all. Question 1. How did I do against my 4 buckets last month? Were my essentials under 50%? Did my stability fund grow? Did my investment contribution go out? Did I stay within my 10% life money? You're not trying to be perfect. You're looking for patterns. 1 overspend in dining out isn't a crisis. 3 months of it tells you something about your habits that needs addressing. Question 2. Is there anything coming next month that I need to plan for? A car service? A birthday? An annual insurance renewal? These aren't surprises if you think about them 30 days in advance. The goal is to stop money ambushing you. Question 3. Can I increase my investment contribution by even a small amount? Even an extra $25 or $50 a month makes a meaningful difference over years. And the habit of looking for ways to invest more, rather than looking for reasons why you can't, rewires how you think about money. That's it. 3 questions, 20 minutes, once a month. People who do this, who have some kind of regular financial check-in, build measurably more wealth than those who just let money happen to them. Because your finances don't need to be perfect. They just need to be attended to. The long game. Why this all matters. I want to end with something that goes beyond spreadsheets and percentages. Because I think the reason most people never get on top of their money isn't lack of knowledge. It's lack of a reason that's big enough to make the discipline feel worth it. So let me ask you something. What would your life look like if your money worked for you instead of the other way around? Not in some abstract future, in real terms. What would actually be different? Would you stay in a job you don't love because you feel financially trapped? Or would you have enough saved to take a risk, try something new, walk away from something that isn't working? Would you lie awake at 3 in the morning doing mental arithmetic about whether the bills will clear? Or would you sleep knowing the emergency fund is full, the investments are compounding, and the month is accounted for? Would you watch your children or grandchildren struggle with money because nobody taught them how it works? Or would you be the person in the family who broke that cycle? That's what this is really about. Not the percentages, not the index funds, not the tax-advantaged accounts. Those are just tools. What they build is options, peace of mind, and time. Time to spend the way you actually want to spend it. And here's the one thing I want you to take from this video above everything else. 78% of people were never taught how to manage money in school. Not formally, not properly. Which means most of the people around you, however financially put together they look on the outside, are figuring this out as they go, just like you are. You are not behind, you are not failing, you are simply someone who is choosing right now, today, to pay attention to something that most people spend their whole lives hoping will sort itself out. It doesn't sort itself out, it responds to attention, to small decisions made consistently over time, to the habit of checking in, adjusting, and continuing anyway even when it's not going perfectly. Here is your starting point. This week, find your 3 numbers: income, spending, surplus, or deficit. That's step 1. Nothing else, just see clearly where you stand. Next week, set up the 4 buckets. Start with whatever amounts fit your income right now. Even if your investment bucket starts at $20 or $30 a month, it starts. The month after, automate it, make it invisible, let it run. And then, do your monthly check-in, 20 minutes, 3 questions, every single month. That's the system. That's the whole system. Not complicated, not requiring a finance degree, not waiting until you have more money, starting with what you have right now and letting the consistency do what consistency always does. Build something real. If this video helped you, make sure you subscribe because we put out content exactly like this regularly. Practical, no jargon financial education for people who are serious about actually building something. And if you want to keep going right now, I've left the next video right up here. It covers how to grow your income so you have more to work with inside this exact system. But before you click anything, go find your 3 numbers: income, spending, and what's left. That 20 minutes will tell you more about your financial life than anything else you could do today. I'll see you in the next one.